Alright, welcome back everybody. So today we're going to be talking about problem set 2.1. Well, we're not going to be talking about, we're going to be solving some problems in problem set 2.1. And let's get started. So we're going to be starting off with problem set number 40. If you want to try these problems yourself, you can go ahead and do them yourself and then come back and watch for the solution. So let's get started on problem set number 40. And we have negative 6 times x minus 4 minus 10 equals negative 12. So we're going to use the distributive property in order to simplify this. So we get negative 6 times x, which is negative 6x. Maybe write that. Negative 6x. And then negative 6 times negative 4. Remember that negative times negative is equal to positive. So we have negative 6 times negative 4, which is positive 24. And then we're going to get minus 10 is equal to negative 12. Okay? And now we're going to bring all the numbers to that side. Well, first we're going to simplify the numbers on this side, so that's a little bit easier. So we have negative 6x plus 14 is equal to negative 12. Now we are going to subtract 14 from both sides in order to get minus 6x is equal to, so negative 6x is equal to, and then we have negative, we know it's negative because we're adding two negatives, so negative 12 plus negative 14. It's basically, you're basically adding 12 and 14 in this one. And that brings us to 26. And since both of these have a negative sign, you can cross out the negative sign. And now we're going to divide with 6 on both sides in order to get x is equal to 26 over 6. But we can simplify that in order when we can divide it with 2. And then you get 13 over 3. And that's the best we can do. That's the farthest we can simplify. Since 13 does not go into 3, 3 does not go into 13. If we want to turn it into a mixed number, all we have to do is, so how many times does 3 go into 13? 3 times 4 is 12, and that's probably the closest we're going to get. And so we have 4, and then we have a remainder of 1. So all we just have to do is put the 1 over here, put the division sign, and then the number that you are dividing with, you just put that down in the denominator, and you have a mixed number. So 4 and 1/3. So now we're going to move on to question number 44 in the problem set. And we have 4 times x minus 2 minus 3 times x minus 1 is equal to 2 times x plus 6. So we're going to use the distributive property again to simplify the equation. So 4 times x is 4x, 4 times negative 2 is negative 8, minus 3 times x is 3x, and then negative 3 times negative 1 is equal to positive 3, which is equal to, so 2 times x is 2x, and then 2 times 6 is 12, so plus 12. Now we're going to simplify the left side of the equal sign so that it'll be easier to solve. So we're going to do 4x minus 3x, which is a single x, and then we have negative 8 plus 3, which is going to be negative 5, is equal to 2x plus 12. So now we're going to subtract 2x from both sides, and we're also going to add 5 this time. So in my section 2.1 video, I said that in order to get rid of a number or a variable from one side, we have to add or subtract depending on the sign, and this time we have to add. So we're going to add 5 here, and I'm just going to add 5. So then these 5s are going to cancel out. Let me just use a different color here. So these 5s are going to cancel out. And then we're also going to subtract 2x from both sides so that we can get rid of this 2x over here. So after we've done all that, we're going to have x minus 2x is equal to 12 plus 5, which is 17. So x minus 2x is negative x is equal to 17. And since we have negative x, which is equal to negative 1x, we're going to divide all of it with negative 1. So when we do that, when we are dividing with negative 1 from both sides, we're going to get rid of the negative sign on this side. You usually don't want a negative sign with x. You always want x to be positive. Like the variable x, not the value for x. So x is equal to 17 divided by negative 1, which is the same thing as negative 17. So in a shortcut, instead of doing this dividing with negative 1, if you see negative x is equal to some number, all you just have to do is write x equals the opposite of this number. So if it's like 24, then you would write negative 24. If it's negative 3, you would write positive 3. So basically you would flip the sign of what the value is on this side. So since it's positive 17, we'd flip the value and we get negative 17. There you go. So now we're going to move on to question number 50. And the equation, or the problem for that, is negative parentheses 2n minus 1 plus 6 times n plus 3 is equal to negative 4 minus 7n minus 11. So these negative signs here, we have the negative 2n minus 1. That basically means negative 1 times 2n minus 1. So you're multiplying, so when we use the distributive property, instead of multiplying with some other number, we would be multiplying it with negative 1. Okay, so let's just do that really quickly. So we get negative 2n, and then negative times negative is positive, so plus 1. And then we have plus 6 times n, which is 6n, plus 18, 6 times 3 is 18, which is equal to negative 4 minus 7n. So once again, we're doing negative 1 times this parentheses. So we have negative 7n. Whoops. So we have negative 7n minus 11. And then since we have negative 1, it would be negative times negative, which is positive 11. Okay. And now we're gonna have to simplify both the left side and the right side in order to make the equation easier for us to solve. So we have negative 2n plus 6n, which is equal to 4n. And then we have plus 1 plus 18, which is plus 19, which is equal to, so we don't have any n's on the right side, so that's going to stay as negative 7n. And then we have negative 4 plus 11, which is going to bring us to a positive 7. So we're going to, in order to remove the n's, we're going to have to add 7n, not subtract, we're going to have to add 7n to both sides. And then we're also going to have to subtract 19 from both sides as well. So we know that the 7n is going to cross out on the right side, and the 19 is going to cross out on the right side. So we're going to have 4n plus 7n is equal to 7 minus 19. Okay, so when we add up the 4n plus 7n, we get 11n is equal to 19. So when we're doing this 7 minus 19, another way you could think of it is 19 minus 7, but put the negative sign with your answer. So 19 minus 7 is equal to 2, or not 2, but 12. And then instead of it leaving it positive, it would just be negative, because it's not 9. It's not 19 minus 7. It's negative 19 plus 7. So we have negative 11n is equal to negative 12. And then that brings us to n equals negative 12 over 11. And then if we wanted to convert it into a mixed fraction, we would get negative 1, because it can't divide anymore. And then since we have a remainder of 1, it would be 1 over 11. Okay, so now we're going to move on to our next problem, which is a word problem. So problem set number 52. If one number is subtracted from 7 times a certain number, so since we don't know the number, let's just call the number, let me zoom in. So the number is equal to x, okay? So let's call number x. So if one number, or if x is subtracted from 7 times another number, okay, so if x is subtracted from 7 times x, the result is the same as if 31 is added to 3 times x. Find the number. So basically, what I just did is I replaced number, or like the certain number, with x. Okay? So we have x plus, let me just make sure that I'm formatting it correctly. Yes, okay. So x minus 7 times. So x minus 7x is equal to 31 plus 3x. So let's simplify the left side in order to make the equation simpler. So we're going to get x minus 7x, which is negative 6x, is equal to 31 plus 3x, and we're going to have to subtract 3x from both sides in order to get the x's on one side and the numbers on the other side. So we have negative 6x minus 3x is equal to 31. We have negative 9x is equal to 31. X is equal to 31 over 9. Negative 9. Remember, in order to get rid of the coefficient next to the x, we would have to divide it with the number, the coefficient that's next to the x. So since in this case it's negative 9, we're dividing both sides with negative 9. So, and then we're going to turn it into a mixed number. If we want to turn it into a mixed number, we would do, what's it called? Yeah, so we would find out how many times 9 can go into 31, which is, what is it? So 9 times 3 is 27, and 9 times 4 is 36. So we're going to have to do it with 9 times 3. So that's negative 3. And then, so then the remainder with, the remainder when you divide with 3, or when you're, when this is 3, is 3. Or not 3, it's 4. So you would have 4 over 9. So since 31 minus 27 is 4, the remainder is 4. And then you would just divide that. So you would write 4 over here and then divide it by the number that you were dividing by. Okay, so this is going to be another problem. Another word problem here. So suppose that a plumbing repair bill, not including tax, was $130. So we know that the bill is $130. So this is $25 for parts and 2 hours and 2 hours of labor. So now we need to find the hourly hourly rate that was charged for labor. Okay? So in the problem, in the example that I shared in my section 2.1 video, there was a problem similar to this, except we had to find the hours of labor that was required. So now in this one, we have to find the price, the hourly rate of the labor. So let's just go here, increase the size of it. And then we have, so we're just going to do the same thing we did last time. So we have $25 for parts plus 2 hours. So 2 hours times X dollars, which is equal to 130. So we're just going to subtract 25 from both sides, which brings us to 2x is equal to 130 minus 25. And 130 minus 25 is equal to, so 2x equals 105, and then x equals 105 over 2. And since we want it in decimals, because it's money can be in decimals, we can just do long division, and that brings us to 2 divided by 105. And then, so since we can't, so 2 doesn't divide into 1, you would just move on to the next number. And then, so we have 10. So 10 divided by 2 is equal to 5. And then you would have a remainder of, and then it would be 50, because 2 times 50 is equal to 100, and then you would have a remainder of 5. So, but since we want it in, oh wait, no, it's not 50, it's 52, since you can divide it. So then that would be 4, and then you would have a remainder of 1, and then you would put a decimal point there. You'd have 0, add a 0 down there, and then you have 10 divided by 2, which is equal to 5. So the hourly rate is $52.50. That is the hourly rate. Okay, so the next problem set is number 64. In a class of 62 students, the number of females is 1 less than twice the number of males. How many females and males are in the sky? So we know, oh, it's not supposed to be in the sky. It's supposed to be in the class. Let me change that for you guys. Okay, so we know that there are 62 students, and the number of females is 1 less than twice the number of males. So let's take the males as x, okay? So the number of females is 1 less than twice the number of males. So since male is x, so 2x minus 1 is equal to the females. And since we know that there are 62 students, we would just do 2x minus 1 plus x is equal to 62. And then we would just simplify the left side of the equal sign to get 3x minus 1 equals 62. And then we would add 1 to both sides to get 3x is equal to 63. So then we have x is equal to x is equal to 21. Okay? So how I figured it out is that, remember that when we want to get rid of the coefficient right next to the x, we will divide it by that coefficient. So in this case, we have a coefficient of 3. We're just going to divide the whole thing by 3. So it would be 3x divided by 3 equals 63 divided by 3. So I just did it quickly, and then you got x equals 21. So since it's asking for males and females, we only found males. So the amount of females is 2x minus 1, so 21 times 2 is equal to 42, and then you have minus 1, which is equal to 41. So there are 41 females and 21 males. Okay, so our next problem is problem set number 66. So Barry sells bicycles on a salary plus commission basis. He receives a weekly salary of $300 and a commission for $15 for each bicycle that he sells. How many bicycles must he sell in a week to have a total income of $750? So we know his weekly salary is $300, and he receives an extra $15 for each bike that he sells. So let's say the amount of bikes that he sells. So amount of bikes that he sells is X, okay? So we have $300 for his weekly salary plus $15 for each bike he sells. So let's just do 15x is equal to $750 because we want it to equal $750. So we want his total weekly income to be $750. So now let's simplify this equation. So we need to subtract 300 from both sides in order to have the x's on one side and the numbers on the other side. So 750 minus 300 is equal to 450. And then we have x equal 450 divided by 15. Remember, I said in the last problem as well, that if you want to get rid of the coefficient next to x, you have to divide the whole equation by the coefficient. So, now we have a very big number divided by 15. So I have a little shortcut, and what we can do is, since we know that 45 divided by 15 is equal to 3, we can just remove the 0 for a second, do the division, and then add the 0 back in. And that way we get 30. So I can prove this is right because when you do 15 times 30, you get, let's see here, and then you get 3 plus 1 is 4, and then you would add the 0 back in, and you get 450. So that's a neat little shortcut that I have. So now x is equal to 30. So he needs to sell 30 bikes in order to have a weekly income of $750. Okay, so that is my last example. I hope you learned something from this video. I hope you have a great rest of the day. And yeah, thanks for watching.